The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
The newest member of the Vancouver Canucks was meant to be in Vancouver, because you know what they say in Vancouver? It's time to blaze up.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to a special short bonus episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks writer since 2013, currently with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into this short episode of Locked On Canucks, we got to thank you for tuning in. You know why? Because it is your Canucks every damn day. Even in August, baby. Still rolling out probably 4 or 5 times a week for you here. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They do the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, come on. What if the Canucks show is giving you shows 4 to 5 days a week? Don't answer that question. Just subscribe, like, and follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. I wasn't planning on hopping today. No mic, no problem. Just a quick hit here because the Canucks made a signing today. And a bit of an odd one. I'll get into that in a second. As they signed Sammy Blais to a 1-year deal. Now, the odd part of this contract is that he is on a PTO with the Vancouver Canucks, and usually with the PTO, if you sign a PTO and you don't make the team, you're gone. But with Sammy Blais, it's going to be a bit different because he's signed an AHL-only contract right now. So the expectation is that, more likely than not, he's going to play with the Abbotsford Canucks next season. But who knows? We know he's playing for Rick Tocchet here. And a crash and bang player could suit what Rick Tocchet wants on or in his bottom six. And we saw that this team, this management group, they like their big boys, especially on the back end. But, they like the big boys at forward as well. And, shout out to our commenters as well. I know there's a couple of you, especially when we did that episode about PTOs, who were saying that, the Canucks should target Sammy Blais as a PTO candidate. And I did not include him on my list, so that's an L for your boy Beggsy here. And part of the reason was he was atrocious last year. He was atrocious with the St. Louis Blues. 1 goal, 7 points in 53 games, terrible underlying metrics. Basically, the Blues created next to no offense with him on the ice. Even though he was, a middling defensive player, just didn't really offer a lot at all. But here's the thing with Sammy Blais is that, again, he's a bigger guy. He's won a Stanley Cup with those St. Louis Blues. And, it wasn't too long ago where, he had a really good stretch of hockey. And there's been pockets throughout his NHL career where he has played some damn good hockey. And let's go as recently as the 2022-23 season. So 1 year removed from the atrocity that was last season for Sammy Blais. When he the St. Louis Blues, we'll back it up a bit. The St. Louis Blues, for those who don't know, they traded him to the New York Rangers in 2021 for part of a deal that included Pavel Buchnevich, underappreciated in New York, has gone on to be definitely a first-line winger for the St. Louis Blues, and someone that we talked about potentially coming to Vancouver this offseason before he ended up re-upping in St. Louis. Now, the Rangers, they obviously got the bleep end of the stick on that trade. Sammy Blais didn't do much in New York. Ends up going back to St. Louis in 2023 in the Vladimir Tarasenko trade. And after that, in New York, he had 0 goals in 54 games. All of a sudden, he goes to St. Louis at the tail end of the 2022-23 season, and he pots 9 goals and 20 points in 31 games. One of the highest scoring members of the St. Louis Blues to end the season. And you're thinking, look at this guy. Physical forward, crashes, he bangs, he does it all. And you know what? It just didn't work out in St. Louis last year. Again, in terms of the metrics, and the couple times I watched him, he was one of the most disappointing players in the NHL last season. Let's put it that way. I know low expectations for a bottom 6 forward, but he did not perform. Is there a chance that he can rediscover things and be a bit more effective with the Vancouver Canucks? Again, it's a low risk signing here, and I think there's a thirst in this market to find the next Dakota Joshua, right? Dakota Joshua, everyone wants that guy. You bring him in, you pay him league minimum, and all of a sudden he's a third line player, maybe even a low end top 6 player, scoring goals, hitting guys, providing value, killing penalties. I think if that's your mentality about the signing, you got to temper expectations. I personally don't see Sammy Blais as anything more than a 4th liner on this team at best. And I think if he comes in and he pushes some of the forwards that this team has signed, the Heinens, the Sprongs, the Di Giuseppes, he's probably done his job. And he's not a bad call-up option for you either if he goes into Abbotsford and is one of the better players for that team. And again, for some of the young guys in Abbotsford, this is a guy who was part of a Blues team that, again, they won the frickin' Stanley Cup. That means something, especially for guys down there like the Archie Bain, the Atu Ratus, the Jonathan Lekaramakis. It's good to have that Stanley Cup pedigree in your organization and on your AHL team, especially for guys who, the guys on the developmental path in the AHL, a lot of them have never even sniffed the NHL, never mind playing in a Stanley Cup Finals game. So I think for the Canucks, again, low risk signing, an odd contract for sure. It's not often you see a player sign both a PTO and an AHL deal. And I think that might be part of the reason why Blais chose the Vancouver Canucks. Again, we're getting to the tail end of August. This is a guy sitting around without a contract. And if things don't work out in your PTO, you're thinking, where the heck is my career going? Am I going overseas? Am I uprooting my family? Am I uprooting my life? At least for Sammy Blais now, he knows he has the certainty of knowing he's going to be on the West Coast, the best coast, skating down the ice in a blaze of glory. Let's go, baby. Now, one other interesting thing about Sammy Blais I'll mention is that he does have ties to at least one other member of the Vancouver Canucks. And that's newest member of the Vancouver Canucks, Daniel Sprong, or at least he was the newest member until the signing of Sammy Blais today. Daniel Sprong, we talked about it before. Everydayers know, maybe even first-time listeners know if you've been kind of reading up on Daniel Sprong a bit. But Daniel Sprong and his family moved from the Netherlands over to Quebec when Sprong was about 7 or 8 years old. And Sprong and Sammy Blais, as kids, actually played together in the same hockey tournament in Quebec for years until they kind of started to hit their preteens and they went their separate ways. So interestingly enough, I think we're all penciling in Daniel Sprong for a roster spot here. But if you're looking at someone who Sammy Blais could potentially steal a roster spot from, it could be his old pal Daniel Sprong. Now, I'm not banking on that. I'm just playing devil's advocate here and talking about if Sammy Blais blows the doors off in training camp. Again, he plays for a coach in Rick Tocchet who, he likes that crash. He likes that bang. He likes that boom bam in the bottom 6. That's not Daniel Sprong's game, but that is the game for Sammy Blais. There we go. All right, so you heard it here. The Canucks signed Sammy Blais, 1-year contract on a PTO, also going to join the Abbotsford Canucks at some point this season. And all the best to Sammy Blais, man. I think you're meant to be in Vancouver, buddy. With a last name like that, you were meant to be a member of the Vancouver Canucks. All right, I'm Trevor Beggs. I wasn't planning on hopping on today. It's a quick one. I will be back tomorrow morning. And I believe the topic I'm diving into is which defensemen are out there on the trade market for the Vancouver Canucks, both right now or potentially into next season. Because we know Patrik Allvin and co, they want to improve that D, okay? They want to stiffen it up, okay? Boing! Nothing like a good D. There we go. Let's get to 1 or 2 comments here before we get out of here. Popeye Sailor saying Blais one up. It's a 420 friendly show. We'll just put it that way. Also saying that he's a fan of the signing. Maybe Popeye Sailor is one of those guys saying that the Canucks should sign Sammy Blais. Saying right on, he liked his play against Boston for the Cup. Sammy Blais was a factor. They had some bottom of the lineup guys like Sammy Blais and Mackenzie McEachern who their careers maybe haven't gone out as people thought, but they were valuable contributors during that run. And Sammy Blais, I was just reading up on it before I hopped on. He didn't get into the lineup until I think it was game 6 of the second round. And during that run, but scored in his first game in a game that forced game 7 against the Dallas Stars. So you talk about showing up in big moments. Sammy Blais has done that on occasion throughout his NHL career, right? That was actually, ironically, his only goal of the run in 2019. But regardless, he was a pain in the ass to play against. I remember that. And the following year with the St. Louis Blues, actually had 4 points in 8 playoff games as well. So he's found a way to step up in big moments. Get to call from Clifford Reynolds here. Sprong sounds like he should have a lot of spring in his step. He should have that boing. He should have that bounciness, okay? Sprong, again, got that call from McTockett. Should be a motivated guy to play in Vancouver. And now, he's going to be playing on the same team as his old childhood buddy, Sammy Blais, and potentially competing against him for a roster spot. One more comment here from Kurt Richardson. Shout out to all of you commenting, watching, whenever you're listening, wherever you're listening. Kurt Richardson saying, we have enough guys who can play well defensively. I wouldn't give up Sprong's offense for Blais. Just my opinion. However, Blais on the fourth line would be okay. Again, it's a long shot for Sammy Blais. The Canucks, we talked about on yesterday's show. Go check that out if you haven't already, when we talked about the Canucks versus the Oilers. Where do they stand going into next season? I still took the Oilers forwards over the Canucks. You can feel free to slap me around for that one. But I like the Canucks' depth better. Like, you look at the Canucks on their bottom 2 lines. I'm taking their bottom 6 over the Oilers' bottom 6 any day of the week. It's going to be hard for Sammy Blais. He's going to have to knock off a guy like Sprong. I'm not even sure who else, right? Like, most of the forwards right now are penciled in. Like, there's a lot of winger depth on this team. Like, he's probably going to battle PDG for the 13th forward spot. Maybe even like an RHD Baines if there's a chance for him to, crack the Canucks at a training camp. So we'll see where it goes. I'm going to put Sammy Blais the odds of making the team out of camp. Let's give him 42.0%, okay? Read into that what you will. Okay, I got to get out of here. I'm Trevor Beggs. Thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in, whether you're an everyday or an occasional listener, first-time listener, a new subscriber, or you join us on the live show on YouTube. I'll be back again tomorrow morning. Again, this is Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver